The next data that's being collected would be the student absenteeism. This is submitted through the STAS file. So this helps track chronic absenteeism that is being collected in the California dashboard. So what is student chronic absenteeism? It's essentially a definition where a student who misses 10% of the school year for any reason. So it could be an excused absence, it can be an unexcused absence, and it can be a hybrid. So it could also be, in a form of suspensions, medical excuses. All of those are totaled, and if it reaches 10% or more of your total attendance days, then the student will be defined as chronic absentee. So before we start, there are some slides here that we hid because these are, some slides that are screenshots of CalPads, and so we thought of just including it but not presenting it today. So if I am presenting a number and if I skip, that's the reason why. Okay. So anyway, the stats reporting basics. So what's new this year? Let's start with the new information for stats. NPS are no longer required to submit stats. Well, duh, we know we never submitted stats for NPS, right? So, but the explanation here is that you're no longer required to submit the actual stats record with an exemption indicator. So, do not submit or send up stats record for NPS students. You could request or check with your SIS to make sure that this is mapped properly or configured properly. That way you don't experience any issues when uploading files to CalPads. Okay. So, what is the reporting period? Again, just like the incident behavior, we will be collecting all absences throughout the academic year, which is from July 1st, 2024 to June 30, 2025. Stats records are required for enrollments 10 and 30 only. So any students in the 50 enrollment are not expected. And the grade levels that are expected would be TK to 12 who attended at least one day during the academic year. Okay. Who may be reported with an exemption. So there are instances where students are exempt from STAS. When I say exempt, meaning you still have to submit the STAS record. However, you should just have the exempt indicator marked as yes. So there are instances where students are exempt. These are students who are majority of the time in home and hospital setting. These are students who only attend college classes, so they are basically not at your site the whole time. There are students as well who come back and have an enrollment to annotate a graduation. So let's say if a student came back or finished high school during the summer, you just have to report a 1 day enrollment for that period to be able to account for that task record and make sure that you mark this task as Y. And then, of course, for the exemption is also expected for students who are in adult age transition services. So if you have students who are, let's say, in their second 12th grade year or third 12th grade year, in up to their 18th birthday or 22nd birthday, then you should be able to just mark them as Y for the exam indicator. All right, so what attendance type is included? So this could be in the form of daily, hourly, or project-based coursework attendance for independent study students. All right, so let's just discuss some of the basics that you guys need to be aware of with regards to the STAS file. So when we say exemptions, these are records that do not have attendance and absence fields populated. So when you submit a STAS record for a student who should be exempt, you just have to mark the exempt indicator as a Y and leave all of those other fields blank. Otherwise, it will throw CalPAS will validate the existing values in those unneeded fields and you will get errors. And then, of course, tasks in school and out of school suspensions are validated against the sync record. What does that mean? So, if let's say you claim that a student was absent due to a suspension, Then, of course, CalPADS will have to look for a student incident record. So if, let's say, Nate was suspended for hitting me because he claimed I took away his girlfriend, then, of course, he would be suspended, and that would be part of the suspension. Again, if you claim Nate was absent based on a suspension, then a Sears record should be reported to CalPADS. Okay? So for in-school suspension counts, these are automatically counted as attendance days because the student was technically in attendance on site, right? And then out of school suspension days are added to absences. So CalPAS counts in school suspensions as attendance days. And then for any emergency and disasters, of course, CDE does not want this to be counted negatively against the students. So if you have emergencies, like for example, the fires in SoCal or flooding, then of course you can request a waiver. You will need to submit a waiver to the state to be able to qualify for this reduction of attendance days. All right, so for these two fields, independent study days, non-ADA generating independent study days, and ADA generating independent study days, these are obviously for students who are in independent study. So make sure that all of the days are properly computed. It could be based on coursework, it could be based on traditional attendance for the school where the student is assigned to.
You have completed this module. Please continue to the next video. Thank you.